Today, the Bluebell is one of the most famous and popular railway preservation societies in Britain. From their pioneering days in the 1960s, when they took over a redundant section of British Railways track in Sussex, to now, they have constantly kept to a programme of obtaining and restoring locomotives and rolling stock, mostly ex-Southern Railway origins, to run on their picturesque country railway line. The Bluebell's crew training scheme enables enthusiasts to work through the various grades, from engine cleaner to driver. One of the first things the fireman learns is where to obtain boiling hot water to make some tea with. The locomotive crew like to think that they are keeping alive the great days of Southern steam, like those in the 30s. This film has been kindly lent to us by the Transport Trust. The railway line the Bluebell took over was a secondary route from East Grinstead to Lewes. It was closed in 1958 after a lot of local grumbles were ignored. 2 years later, the Bluebell Preservation Society took over and leased a section from Sheffield Park to Horsted Keynes. At first, trains had to stop outside Horsted Keynes because there was still an electrified track there running to Ardingly on the main line. So an engine at each end was required, as there was no passing loop nearby. The track to Ardingly is over there. Moving on to 1969, midweek visits by parties were getting popular. The 1930s enamelled advertisements were an added attraction. In this film, the loco shed has yet to be built. The collection of engines grew and grew. Today, a P-class is sufficient for the light train. In 1975, a great railway festival was held at Shildon. Amongst all the southern locos there was a Bluebell terrier. A final polish before the world's press, and the parade takes place. Of the many locomotives to have used this track has been Blackmore Vale. It ran on the line until 1985. Today it is out of action and due for a boiler examination and general overhaul. Online produced a film about the engine in 1976 and how it came to the Bluebell to be restored and returned to traffic. It's Friday the 14th of May 1976. On the Bluebell Railway in Sussex, locos are being prepared for the busy weekend ahead. But tomorrow, this magnificent machine takes to the rails again. It's Blackmore Vale. After 9 years of restoration work, it'll be hauling passenger trains again on the Southern. Tender and loco are being joined together, but with just a little trouble underneath.
Something's wrong here. You yarner. Can't put half the bloody packing up.
The driver of the Adams tank seems anxious to heave her out. The story of this loco starts in 1967, when British Railway's southern region finally ceased steam operation. She was based at Nine Elms Depot when a group of railwaymen decided to try and buy a sample of this unusual class of locomotive which had been hauling express trains like the Bournemouth Bell and the Atlantic Coast Express since it was built at Brighton Works in 1946. It was going to cost them £1,900, so why buy one of these? The answer lies with the story on how it came to be built. These revolutionary machines were designed by Oliver Bulliard, who had been working with other locomotive builders like Sir Nigel Gresley. He developed the Merchant Navy class from conventional steam-powered locos, but added many more of his own ideas. Chain-driven valve gear totally immersed in an oil bath. Box-pox American-style lightweight steel wheels cast in one piece, no spokes. Firebox made of steel instead of copper, more weight saved. No running boards or wheel splashers, all enclosed in an air-smooth steel casing, an influence from the 30s. His new engine was powerful and a success. These were soon the mainstay of the Southern Railway. A total of 140 made were still working in 1963. Steam was now on its way out, but the Pacifics were still used right up to 1967. The scrapyards were becoming full of dead locos, arriving daily. Was this going to be the fate of Blackmore Vale? The Bulliard Society took her into Longmoor, a haven for a collection of preserved locos. Longmoor was the home of the Royal Corps of Transport. Here the army were trained to run railways. Blackmore Vale, or West Country Pacific, was going to be generally overhauled for prosperity, for enthusiasts and the general public to enjoy on open days. At Longmoor, amongst other engines being overhauled, the start was made on the long job of thoroughly reconditioning Blackmore Vale. But Longmoor suddenly closed. The Pacific was on the move again, this time to the Bluebell Railway in Sussex. Again a start was made on restoration. Members of the Bulliard Society had a long job ahead of them. People came from many parts of the country to help with this dedicated task. Year after year, work went on in all weathers. It was a long process made difficult by the lack of facilities of a large workshop, and the fact that workers were all volunteers, working only at weekends. However, eventually Blackmore Vale was steamed up and given a run on the line in its uncompleted state, its air-smooth casing unfinished. Since that time, many hours of work have been required to get her into pristine condition as she is today. Today, she is being steamed up for a few runs up and down as a rehearsal for the great day tomorrow, when after a ceremony she will be hauling passengers on the Atlantic Coast Express. The rags are to keep the roof clean when lighting up. Meanwhile, the Adams tank is busy rearranging the stock for the weekend. The USA is in steam. The USA now hauls Blackmore Vale through the station so she can take on water. This done, she glides back to her siding for the night. Saturday morning and Blackmore Vale is in steam ready. Roger Price, who has been secretary of the Bulliard Society for 8 years, goes over the important details of the day's happenings.
So, Jeff, everything's arranged for the bar on the train. Well, we've got the beer arriving and glasses.
And David, how's the motion going? You're going to get it cleaned up in time. Looks pretty good at the moment. But, the wheels to do with it.
It's all systems go as the crew check everything over.
So do we need some more...
Bulliard have built in an electrical generator, steam-powered. It's run up to test the lighting system. Also steam-powered the firebox doors. These are operated by a treadle on the floor. Meanwhile, a vast crowd awaits the ceremony. David Shepherd and other celebrities are on hand to unveil her nameplate. She steams forward for her great moment. David Shepherd had a little chat and then pulled the string. And so after 9 years of hard work by the Bulliard Society, Blackmore Vale is again hauling passengers on the Southern. She ran 5 times to Horsted Keynes that day. In between runs, the Bluebell had a C-class goods engine in service. Congratulations should go to the Bulliard Society for their fine efforts in returning this magnificent machine to traffic. And so to the end of a spectacular day. Blackmore Vale steaming along back on the Southern. A beautiful engine returned to service. So today it awaits for the raising of funds needed for the work it requires to enable it to haul trains again on the Southern. Back to 1983 and a ride up the line behind loco number 1618. Back at Sheffield Park, a special train with important passengers aboard awaits to go up the line.
You're going.
The oddly named Duke Dog is to haul them over there for a special ceremony. Although built in 1938, it was made from bits of old engines dating back to the turn of the century.
One of those kids in those days were finances as they were. Then we will drink the health of the locomotive and perhaps a bottle of champagne. Very nice. Okay. Right. Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray!
A different engine in use this summer for the heavy holiday traffic is the Class 4 tank. An industrial loco for a change. Baxter has been on the Bluebell since 1960. She was built in 1877.
I think only once before condemning.
Another industrial, Normandy. This is a B4. For the summer of 1987, she has been on loan to the Swanage Railway. Although it's only a line of 2 miles, the trains are packed with holidaymakers. 4 coach trains run all day, and Normandy copes very well.
What's it been like then? I mean, it's been overload? Oh, yeah.
This engine used to work at Southampton Docks. Another B4 is seen here. The Swanage line is extended today by half a mile. Normandy takes the first train along it. Back at Horsted Canes, a little shunting is going on. In the shed behind can be spotted the Met coaches. They arrived very early in the Bluebell days. After 5 years' service, they were all in need of complete rebuilding. As they are mostly made of wood, a special carpentry shop is to be set up. Meanwhile, we flash back to 1960 when the coaches were running on London Transport's Chesham branch line. From Lingfield Racecourse Station came this very welcome footbridge. Even on a quiet winter's day, there is always something going on. In the loco shed, a footplate instruction class is going on, all part of the well-run organisation that the Bluebell is. It's spring now and everything must be ready for many trains to run over Easter. The plans to extend to East Grinstead have been published. Over £500,000 have been raised towards the costs. At Kingscote Station, volunteers are working round the well-preserved station buildings. One day trains will be running back to these platforms. Meanwhile, the weeds have to be kept down. The first big weekend of the season, Easter. Q-Class number 541 is on duty. Built in 1938, one of a batch of only 20. It worked with British Railways until 1964, when it went to the scrapyard at Barry. It came here in 1968 and is a very reliable machine. The terrier, after taking on water, will join the Q's train. Later on, it will be running on its own train to help with the crowds. It's 8 a.m. on Saturday in July 1987, and the loco department is going to have a busy day. A young volunteer is preparing the magnificent Ransom Rapier steam crane, which will play an important part in today's activities. Paraffin-soaked rags and sticks of wood, that's the humble beginnings to the mighty power of the crane. Is steam.
It will lift its jib at about 60, I think. I'm not sure though. But it's so well geared, low geared, that it will run such low pressure, you know.
Why do you work on the line?
What I find is the enjoyment of helping get something running again. I mean, say something's been out for, 10 years, like the Q1 which you're about to lift. That's been out for 10 years. If you can help get that running, then it's a part of you and you've put something into it, and it's an enjoyment like that, you know. The Q1 hopefully is going to be lifted so, which means the cab is going to be lifted off, and then the boiler, but what time that's going to happen is not, you know, I've got no idea. What's going to happen first is the crane's going to be moved out, the 2 wagons on the front of it's going to be taken out, but the crane itself brought back down, then all the nuts and bolts have been taken off or burnt out using gas, so that's all ready to lift hopefully.
The Q1 is an unusual locomotive. It was built during the Second World War to an austere design. No frills machine, but highly functional and very efficient. It was another loco from Mr. O.V.S. Bulliard and was described as an ugly thing at first, but it proved itself and was the most powerful of any British 060 ever made. All around this, the loco department is busy getting the engines sorted out. Still, more obstinate bolts and fittings are being burned off before lifting can take place. He's going into the firebox. It's midsummer now, and the Bluebell is very popular with visitors now. There's plenty to see and do, shops to look at, and the new cafe block is soon very busy. What loco is on today, they ask, peering up the line. It's a firm favourite, the school's class Stowe. A visit around the locomotive overhaul works reveals engines in all states of repair. The Q1 chassis is here and ready for its axle box overhaul, and nearby its boiler has received some paint. Around the corner, boilers small to large.
It's going to be the worst one. It's awkward, that one, isn't it? Yeah, it is awkward. Right, come off, Chris.
Meanwhile, the other loco is in use today. The Q class is on its way to Horsted Canes with 2 first-class observation cars. The station shunter today is again the North London tank. Finally, we're going for a first-class ride behind the queue, savouring the unique Bluebell Southern Steam experience.